Hello, I'm Nelson Stefano, and today I'm talking about how Sesame Street has handled representation since its inception. When discussing a show, you should discuss its origins. Sesame Street was conceived as a way for children, particularly inner city minority kids whose families couldn't afford preschool compared to more privileged families, and it gave them a way to learn and prepare for kindergarten, elementary school, and be education wise on an equal level to those more privileged peers. Safe to say, this worked extremely well, and it's probably what helped the show last as long as it has, because think about it, this show's been going on since 1969. That's just impressive in itself. But now that we discussed that, we should probably discuss the matter of plastic representation. What is plastic representation, you may ask? Well, you know when a company does that token diversity hire thing, like they want to look good, but ultimately they don't actually care about diversity, and it's quite hollow. That's basically what plastic representation is. It's a little more complex than that, but that's if you understand that, you pretty much understand the underlying issue about that. Another factor in this is colorblind casting, when characters created for a show or movie are conceived as ethnically ambiguous initially, so that when a casting comes along, they can pretty much put anybody of any ethnicity into that role. While this may seem progressive and inclusive, and it's certainly better than Hollywood's old system of not even considering anyone who didn't look like a polar bear in a snowstorm, again, it's very hollow and prevents storytelling based around diversity and representation because, again, these characters aren't conceived as, we want this character to be black or gay, and instead it's like, oh, this could be anybody, and oh, there we go. And while Sesame Street storytelling is simplistic, I mean, this is a show whose target audience are learning their letters and numbers from said show, after all, the representation definitely isn't plastic, and the choices in casting were certainly intentional. Remember, this show started in the late 60s. They knew exactly what they were doing when it came to casting people who weren't white. And what should also be of note is how the show has evolved over time to be more inclusive, bringing in more characters of various backgrounds, and honestly, start doing it way before most mainstream productions were. The last thing I want to talk about is how the show portrays interracial communities, because it's an interesting case where the setting is both literally and allegorically an interracial community. In a literal sense, the show's setting is, again, an interracial community where there are people of multiple races interacting and coexisting. But on an allegorical level, the use of both human and Muppet characters in the setting is, again, another interracial community, just an allegorical one. And I think this is interesting mainly because typically if a show or some movie does this sort of allegorical version of the representation, they typically won't do the actual version. So when a show subverts this by, doing both, I just think it's very unique. It's great to look back on shows of your youth with a new lens, and I personally enjoyed researching this. Thank you, and see you next video.